But the separation of powers was incredibly important to our founders. They believed, and they followed the teaching of Montesquieu, who said that when the legislative power and the executive power combined in one person, there can be no liberty. James Madison wrote that the way we were going to set the government up was we were going to divide the power equally between three branches, and we were going to pit ambition against ambition. The ambition of people, men and women, to want to garner power is an insatiable sort of power that is inherent to all mankind. So we check it by having another body and group of people who don't want those people to have all the power, and we divide that power so they check and balance each other. So one of the most important powers they gave and were worried about was the power to tax. Many called it the power to destroy. They hated taxes. It was part of the reason we had the American Revolution, taxation without representation. And so when they set up our country, they said the taxes have to originate very specifically in the legislature, but they have to originate in the House of Representatives, because the House was thought to be closer to the people and the Senate was more distant. But all taxes would start in the House before they got to the Senate, before they went to the president, before they became a law. What we're having now is a debate over emergency powers of the president. I like Donald Trump. I'm friends with him. I played golf with him a dozen times. He's had the best cabinet ever. He's getting ready to have even better people. And I hope we do get rid of the Department of Education. We've been for it for 20 years, and Donald Trump's the first one with the courage to have to do it. So I'm not up here just to harangue about a person. But when we look at the Constitution and the separation of powers, I don't fear Donald Trump, but I do fear AOC declaring emergencies. And that could happen. There will be a Democrat at some point in time, hopefully not soon, but when there is, I don't want them to declare a climate emergency and say that I can't drive my car around anymore and I have to, have an electric car. I don't want the left to rule the country by emergency either. So it isn't against Donald Trump that I argue, it's against the idea that one person should make the rules for the country. Tariffs are a tax, clear and simple. He says the foreigners will pay them. But then he said yesterday that Apple's going to pay him. Apple isn't the foreigners. If Apple doesn't do his bidding, they'll have a 25% tax. That shouldn't be the prerogative of one person, even if you like the tariffs. That's not the way we do it in our country. So I continue to argue, and I argued this under Biden. I've had an emergency reform bill for many years now under several different presidents. I haven't won yet. I used to have more allies on the Republican side. I don't have as many right now. But the idea was this, that an emergency declared by the president should be approved by Congress. Because if we're going to live under an emergency, it should be approved. Why is this important? In Kentucky, I'll give you an example. During COVID, our governor did everything by royal edict. He shut down the restaurants. He shut down the schools. He shut down interstate travel. He shut down the churches, for goodness sakes. He sent the state police to take down the license plates of people going to church. How did he do it? By emergency order. So there are bad emergency orders that the other side will use, and we should be very, very wary of allowing our country to be ruled by emergency order. Doesn't mean Trump's a bad person. It means that no one should have that power. No one should have that singular power that it goes unchecked. In our state, what we finally did is we said, and see, our legislature can't call themselves back into session. Our legislature has to be called into session kind of like the days of old when the king would have to call Parliament back. He would dissolve them. They just couldn't come back. That's kind of the way we are. The state legislature can't come back. So we passed a law and said that any emergency declared by the governor is good for 30 days and it expires unless approved by the legislature. He would have to bring us back or the emergency would expire. This is a good government division, separation of powers issue. And I think it's worth still fighting on it. I'll briefly just address the economic issue because I think it's important, and there's some things very fundamental about trade that we should understand. Trade is just an extension of capitalism. If you're for laissez-faire capitalism, if you're for free markets, you have to be for trade. In the beginning, there was somebody in your village who made the shoes, all the shoes. Well, everybody made their own shoes. Then one person in the village made the shoes. Then somebody in the next county made them. Then it was somebody in the next state. We don't really care. Maybe y'all care if we make the shoes in Kentucky versus Iowa, but we got to the point where we didn't care which state we're in. And now it's become an international world where we believe that. But trade has made us rich. If you look at household income in the last 70 years, the lower class has shrunk a little bit. The middle class has shrunk a little bit, but you know what has tripled? In constant dollars, the upper class. We have gotten richer over the last 70 years. We have ups and downs. When we had inflation under Biden, the middle class got squeezed some, but the overall trend of 70 years is we're getting richer. The other thing that we're told, and this is by those who want tariffs, is we're being ripped off. We're being ripped off by China. But the fallacy is this: none of you trade with China. but virtually everybody in here trades with Walmart. You go to Walmart. Let's say the only thing they sell in Walmart is TVs and they all come from China. When you go to Walmart and you buy a TV, you're making a deal, not with China, but with the store of Walmart. Walmart may have bought them in China. But do you buy that TV if you're being ripped off? No, you wouldn't make the deal. Every trade in a voluntary free market is a mutually beneficial trade. When you go in there and if your TV's gonna cost $600, you've got it in your pocket. The TV's $600. The people selling the TV want your $600 and you want the TV. And you have to make a decision that you want the TV more than your $600. All trades are mutually beneficial. But then after a while, you say, well, 1 million people bought TVs and they all came from China and China didn't buy anything from us. We have a trade deficit.